Hello all, and welcome to another thrilling adventure in the book club of destiny. First of all, sorry for that lack of video last week. I was busy spending quality time with family, so it didn't happen. If you want the full scoop on Summerlost, check out the blog. There is a post there all about it, but here's just a little snippet. Basically tell you that it was great. Summerlost is a book that tells the story of this girl a year after her father and brother's death. And so it deals a lot with loss. Something that I really enjoyed about the book is how it addressed a lot of these hard issues that some kids have to deal with, like death of a family member or bullying or things like that. And there's also these great themes of friendship, a little bit of mystery. It's just an overall great book, one that I think would be good for a lot of young readers to get their hands on. Here's your segue into a completely different topic. I think there are multiple things that got me into my love of reading. It certainly wasn't my dad, who absolutely despises literature. In fact, we always tease him every time we see him reading something. That's how rare it is to see him read. Unless it's a user manual. My mother, on the other hand, is a great lover of books, particularly the mystery variety, which I honestly haven't read a whole lot of, except for some Nancy Drew books back in the day. I think one person I have to give a lot of credit to for inspiring my love of books would be my friend Catherine. She always had a good book to recommend. She's actually the one who got me into the Harry Potter series. I might have mentioned her before, I do not recall. I believe she is also the person who first inspired me to read a book underneath my desk, like hiding it underneath my desk, instead of whatever it was the teacher was talking about. I guess you could say that would be a negative influence, but hey, it was A Wrinkle in Time. It's a great book. But I feel like some more of the credit has to go to that very special time in elementary school when we would gather around at the feet of our teacher, sitting cross-legged, all eager-eyed, waiting for them to read. So this week I was reflecting on some of the books I was introduced to thanks to my education. And more specifically, not the ones I was forced to read and write reports on that you didn't always like, but more specifically, the ones that were read to me. And obviously some of these made some sort of impression because I still remember them, and I haven't even reread some of them since then. The first one that came to mind was a children's book called Pink and Say, and this is one of those that I have not read since then. I was either 7 or 8, and it just made some sort of impression on me. The thing that I remember about it is, well, that it actually has a pretty tragic ending. This is a story that takes place during the Civil War, and our two main characters are both soldiers fighting in the war. They are young lads, and one is white and the other one is a former slave. So I'm sure you can kind of imagine how things could end sadly. But really, even with this sad ending, I remember being touched by it, and I don't want to tell you why, because I don't want to give anything away. So pick it up and read it, and see if you're as touched as I am. Or was, rather. The second book that came to mind is a lot more light in nature. It's more humorous. It's called the true story of the three little pigs. And the thing that I love about this story is that it's told from the perspective of the wolf. I love these stories that give us the opportunity to see a very well-known story from a different perspective. Sometimes we find that the characters we thought were evil maybe aren't so evil. In this case, the big bad wolf just needed to borrow a cup of sugar so he could bake a cake. And he happened to have a cold, so every time he sneezed, well, he blew the house down. This is a really fun book, and I loved it as a kid. Your kids will love it. You should read it. Another book that came to mind is another sad one. I don't know, I guess my teachers like to read me sad books. This is one that many of you out there are probably familiar with, and that is Where the Red Fern Grows. Essentially, when you strip it down, it's about a young boy and his two dogs. Again, if you know anything about a boy and their dog stories, I'm sure you understand why this book is sad. But despite its sad ending, I actually really love this book. It's very simple in essence, just kind of one of those growing up, let's go hunting raccoons stories with my two dogs, and I don't know, there's just something about that I love. Finally, I thought of a book series. It's one of those early readers books, and it's the Frog and Toad series. I can't remember all the titles of the books. There's 4 of them. There's like Frog and Toad Are Friends, and that's going to be the only title I can think of right now. I distinctly remember watching a movie that had been made of these stories in my classroom, and it was just something that I really enjoyed. Obviously, you can tell it's about the adventures of 2 great friends, Frog and Toad, and it's just another really fun book. Not sad from what I can recall. There were other books that were read to me in school. I have some honorable mentions on the blog. You can check them out there. I don't think there was ever a book that was read to me that I didn't like. There were books that I had to read for classes that I didn't like necessarily. That is a video for another time where I can rant and rave about books that I don't think anybody should ever read ever. Feel free to leave a comment down below talking about books that your teachers read to you, or you can leave a comment requesting certain books that we should read together as the Book Club of Destiny. Tune in next week where we'll be talking about the book Starters. Until next time, read a book, eat a cupcake, and love life.